Hey there and welcome to another episode of Seenu. Today we're going to be working on a variety of things and there's going to be quite a bit of progress made. But first I do want to apologize for the lack of videos last week. As I'm sure many of you know, Arrowhead Junction, my other Cities Skylines series, the collaboration project that I was working on with Flux, just ended, and putting together the last two episodes took way longer than expected. Specifically, the very last episode where Flux and I did a bit of a progress report / Q&A. The only reason why I'm bringing this up is because you might be interested in watching it, even if you haven't watched Arrowhead Junction, because we did answer questions from the viewers, all sorts of questions, not just related to Arrowhead in particular, but, you know, Cities Skylines and YouTube in general. So I'm going to include the link in the description. You might want to check that out. Now, when it comes to Seenu, I did a little bit of work off camera. That neighborhood that you see in the back, well, you can no longer see it at this point in time exactly, but I just sort of extended the neighborhood that we were working on in the previous episode, and since it kind of follows the same aesthetic and pattern, I decided that it was a probably good idea to do it off camera to, you know, make progress go faster. And that whole empty lot that you see there surrounded by the white walls is the future side of one of the high schools that's going to be on this specific island. There's going to be two of them, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even three. The other one will actually be right across this little stream, this little creek that I'm working on right now, maybe like 1 or 2 blocks away. But we'll get to that in future episodes. Definitely not the topic for this one. For this one, as you can see, we're working on this little creek, and the creek exists, but I have to, you know, give credit to an idea that I took from another YouTuber who goes by the name of Neguchi Maruyama. He's a French YouTuber, and he does some amazing City Skylines videos, so detailed that are just like mesmerizing. I do often retweet some of his builds. And I'm sure many of you already seen his videos. If you haven't, I'm going to include the link in the description. Even though his videos are in French, you still, and if you don't speak French, oh man, you're in for a treat, because everything is so eye candy. His attention to detail is so amazing that even if you don't speak the language, it's just going to be amazing. You're going to get a lot of ideas, specifically this one that I took from his last episode at the time of this recording. He did a bit of a, you know, a bridge that instead of, you know, just spanning over the little creek that he was working on, it's almost like a flood control system. I don't think I don't understand what he said because I don't necessarily speak French, but I took his idea of, you know, having this sort of pipes coming from underneath the bridge, and I decided to do my own version of flood control. So, and this is a bit of a warning, in this episode, or during this time lapse, I'm going to be jumping all over the place. Right now, I'm working on the creek, and then I'm going to work on something else, and then I'm going to go back to the creek, and then, you know, multiple times like that. It's going to be kind of crazy, and, you know, I decided to leave it that way because, you know, that was kind of my thought process as I was working on all of these little projects. For example, here I was putting down some bushes, and then I realized, oh, maybe I can try this thing on this other place. And then I went there and did it. But many of these things I wanted to keep on camera. So instead of turning off the recording, I just simply went to a completely different place and started detailing that, and then going back to the other place, and so on and so forth. It will make sense as, you know, as this time-lapse progress. And if it's too confusing, you can let me know in the comments what you think. Talking about comments and talking about different languages, I wanted to take this opportunity to thank all of my Spanish-speaking viewers who sort of answered my question in the previous episode about me potentially starting a second channel in Spanish, and yeah, I mean the response was so overwhelming that I think I'm going to do it. In fact, I already kind of created the channel. It has no videos in it. I mean, it's just a placeholder right now. If you can find it, you can subscribe to it. I think there's only like 2 subscribers right now. It's me and I think Flux, because I just sent him the link to test things. But I mean, I even tried searching for it and it didn't come up. I think it won't come up until I actually upload something, but it's there. Thing is, the first video will probably take a while. I'm behind on my English schedule, and that's definitely my main priority right now. But hopefully I'm estimating that within a month I'll start uploading videos in Spanish every once in a while. Definitely going to be a secondary thing of mine in the beginning, depending on how things go. But yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of an interesting experiment. And again, I want to thank everyone who sort of gave me your input and ideas and feedback on the last video of Seenu. So that was much appreciated. Now, going back to the time lapse, there's a couple of things that I wanted to point out. As I go crazy with all these bushes and rocks and palm trees and patches of grass, I was trying to sort of reuse, and I think I mentioned this in the previous episode, I was trying to, reuse this technique that I tried in Arrowhead Junction. If you remember the episode where I did the water treatment plant, I was using surface painter to sort of paint the bottom of the water and kind of like tint the color of the water using that texture, and it didn't quite work here in Seenu. I think what I'm calling the Gatorade blue water that I have here, it's a little bit too intense and a little bit too saturated. And I think the only way I'm going to be able to change that is effectively if I go into the map editor and actually change the shade of the water, which it's an option, but it doesn't seem like the greatest idea right now. Specifically because the creek doesn't look so out of place with blue water. But I might be able to go in and tweak it. The problem is that uploading, if I change the map theme, I'll have to upload it again to the Steam Workshop, and it's a royal pain in the ass. It's like not fun at all uploading things to the workshop, especially if you are updating things on the workshop. It's just really not much fun. So I don't know. I'll think about it. But since it doesn't look so out of place, I think I'm going to leave it the way it is, at least for now. I think you'll be able to get a better idea of how everything looks later on during this time lapse as I work on a little swamp that's going to be in the middle of the island. It's going to have so many trees and bushes and patches of grass in and out of the water that it will give you, a better idea of how things look like. And you can let me know in the comments what you think, but for the time being, I think I'm going to keep things the way they are. Now, over here with the keys, I should probably explain what I'm trying to do. You see, in Google Maps, I can see that the last segment of this creek, well, in real life, obviously, it's straightened out by a bit of a concrete canal. And I was trying to sort of recreate the same design here using this sort of ramp blocks by Avani, I think they are. And you can pretty much position them any way you want. If you basically plop them to the side and use Move It to copy it, and then using page down or page up, you can lower them or raise them. The problem is that once you do that, if you then create a road segment or do a little bit of terraforming in the area adjacent, which I don't know how big it is, but apparently it's pretty big, the position of those blocks resets. And if you spend the time to put bushes around them or even props around them, all that resets as well. So it's definitely not the best solution. I later on decided to use a different combination, using keys instead of those blocks. So stay tuned for that. And this is kind of related to what I was saying before, that I'm going to be all over the place. But we'll get to that in a moment. However, now I should probably talk about those breakwater rocks because, well, obviously I haven't touched them yet in terms of, working on the asset and getting it ready for the workshop. I think now I should start prioritizing that because I've been using them more and more, and it's likely that I'll have to replace them once I worked on the final version. Specifically, for two reasons. Right now, there's no LODs, and when I zoom out, they just look disgusting. They're really, really broken. That's like the default LOD that the game creates when you save the asset without one. But at the same time, I also want a shorter version of that you can just use in tight corners and things like that. So it's I think I need to start working on that, and for sure it's going to be up on the Stream Workshop as soon as I'm done. You'll know soon enough. I'll probably announce it during one of these videos anyways. But that's it. We're going back to this little creek, and that's kind of the final design that I came with. There's a bit of a ramp going up from the top of the bridge with the keys, and then it kind of lowers into the ground. And it just, I think it looks great together with the pipes and everything else. And obviously we're going to be doing a lot of foliage and bushes around it. Over here, just, adding a few little details to this intersection, moving the police station, actually creating the police station for the first time, because this whole area didn't have one, and we're having some, security issues. So I decided to put the police station right where it is in real life as well. It doesn't look quite like that, obviously, but it does exist in that same spot. And this is something that I tweeted, by the way. I've been creating this little trails that connect the inner road with the link road, the asphalt road that you see there. And I was trying this awesome assets that show it's basically pedestrian signs, but they look great and they look super realistic, and they add a ton of detail to an otherwise repetitive road. So I decided to put those on each side, so they're very, very visible, together with the bollards and everything else. I think it came out fantastically well. And obviously adding the zebra crossing, of course. Even off camera, I don't think I got this on footage on this, but I've been using pulpable asphalt to sort of hide the default lines that the road has. So right around where the zebra crossing is, right now, during this time lapse, you still see the markings of the road, but I decided to hide them later on, so it's going to be all much, much nicer. These rocks look great, and I've been using them to sort of segment the beginning and end of this this shoreline. The main problem is that their hitbox just stops the water sometimes, so you have to be really, really careful in how you put it down, because otherwise you'll get a block of no water, even though the rocks are kind of half submerged in them. It's kind of a shame. I wish that it was a different type of acid that would just mix with the water. But it's totally not the case. So even though they look amazing, you have to be really, really careful. And hopefully my version of the breakwater rocks, once I'm done, won't have that problem. I'm really that is something that I've been thinking quite a bit on how to avoid. I have a few ideas on how to achieve that, but it's going to take some time. Over here, adding a few lights just to make everything a little bit nicer at night, even though there's going to be some cinematics at the end at night, if I'm not mistaken. I think I include at least one. This project at night is not as cool, I think, as a big city, because it's mostly dark. I mean, some of these inner roads do have, some street lighting, but for the most part, everything else is just dark, or at least in the corners, there's a light every 1 or 2 blocks. So don't expect a lot of night shots of Seenu. I do love sunset shots, and there's going to be one of them in the cinematics that looks freaking amazing. But 100% night shots, I don't know. I'm sure I'm going to include some, but it's definitely not going to be something that I'll be doing quite often, specifically because I don't like the nighttime. I don't think you can see anything in general. I'm not a huge fan of night shots. That's probably why you don't see me post so many of them. But I know many of you really like them, so I'm going to do my best to sort of fight against my dislikement, I guess, if that's even a word. Going back to this microwave radio station, I promised in the previous episode that we're going to, detail a little bit, and this is me adding details to it. As you can see, I went really not crazy with decals and pushes. I try to keep things pretty clean for the most part. The expansion joints for the concrete are really what makes this thing look much nicer than anything else. I added some containers here with some coolers, because I can think of those as some sort of servers that they just brought in, and they're self-containing, those containers. Over here I was trying to do this shortcut into the football stadium, but I decided to sort of scrap it later because it didn't look great. It felt kind of out of place, even though it could exist in real life. I would have done something a little bit narrower than that. The default pedestrian paths are a bit too thick, so I decided to just patch that hole that I made in there and keep things simple. Now, detailing the rest of the football stadium, I'm adding a few benches for, the coaches of both teams. And I also decided to add some cones for training. And you're gonna see me add a few, people props that I found on the workshop that are basically just the vanilla props for different people. They're just standing still and not moving. So I try to like create a team, even though there's no, specific props for actual like sports related uniforms or something like that. But I'll do my best. But before I get into that, I decided to sort of get rid of all those patches of dirt because this is a big stadium and it wouldn't be so damaged as I made it to be. So instead I'm going for the manicure grass that I think makes way more sense. And I was using the fertile surface painter brush, I guess it's what you would call it, to create like a different shade of green for the soccer field, for the underneath of the soccer field, which is obviously, it's mostly so that when I can zoom out, you see a different shade of grass, specifically because, the manicure grass just sort of disappears as all the other decals do when you zoom out. So at least there's a bit of a different shade of color when you zoom out. I've been doing that quite often. That's why I've been removing, the textures from all of these dirt roads that surround the different builds. Even though they're covered in the mud decals, when you do zoom out, they do blend in rather nicely, even without the decals as they sort of fade out. So I don't know if that makes sense, but you'll see in the outro cinematics that even looking at the thing from far away, things look, pretty realistic. And obviously just adding a whole bunch of vegetation and bushes and foliage around the football field. And this is what I was telling you a second ago. I'm adding just random props of people. I added a dude in a suit, which I'm guessing is the coach, and then a whole bunch of other props of the same guy wearing the same sort of uniform, even though they're wearing, trousers and not shorts. I don't know how you would train like that, but that's the best I was able to do. And it does look pretty decent, so I was pretty happy with it. As you can see here, going back to the main road, to the link road, and adding all sorts of details. And this, oh, by the way, this is one of my favorite builds. And it's still not finished because I need to like work on the surroundings of this. So it's going to take some time. But this is a roundabout that exists. And man, this took so much work to get it to look like, to get it to look really rough, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because right now, as you can see, I'm adding, the one-way roads, and they all have curves and lights and things. But if you look at the real roundabout, it doesn't look like this. I'm going to try to include a photo of this in the video so you can see. But it's like really rough. It doesn't have any curves or any markings except for the lanes that merge onto it. So it took me some time to figure out how to do it. But basically, you're going to see me in a moment just add a ton of these pluggable asphalts to sort of hide all of the markings. And it did came out fantastically well, especially coupled with several of decals to sort of ruin all the edges and add a bit of texture to things. I also was realizing that things were a little bit too like curvy, and that is not how it does look in real life. I think we could do a much better job. So I decided to sort of straighten out these corners with the pluggable asphalt. In a moment, you're gonna see me even get rid of all of the markings altogether, like all these like lines from the different lanes, and also like changing the shape so that it's not like a perfect circle and more like an weird oval type geometry. I don't even know, but it does look kind of nice. This whole neighborhood, by the way, the one that's screaming for power, I specifically left it unconnected because I haven't finished working on it. It's basically the expansion, part of the expansion that I was doing off camera, but I didn't have time to actually work on the inner streets and all that. And the next episode, I'm probably going to be working around this area as well. I'm going to be doing an apartment complex that, like a government sponsored apartment complex in this area. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, these buildings really want to be connected to the power grid. They don't despawn or anything simply because I have the no abandonment mod. but they do look. The neighborhood already looks rather nicely. I just need to add the mod decals and things like that, but it shouldn't be too hard to make it look fantastic. And as you can see here, going back to the roundabout, things look really plain, and that's kind of what I was aiming for. The roundabout itself, it's a little bit too big for, compared to the one that I'm basing this off, but it does look really nice in general. I think we can improve the lighting though, because that little light doesn't lit up the whole area. I think the light bounces against the roundabout building itself, and it casts shadows across the road, so you really can't see it. Over here, I realized that I went a little bit crazy with the decals, so I decided to tone them down. And as I was doing that, I accidentally deleted many of the pluggable asphalts, so I had to replace them over and over again. Quick tip, do the decals at the very last. In fact, maybe create a save game of your base road layout before you add the decals, because sometimes, specifically if you have a ton of pluggable asphalt elements in the in the bottom, it's really a pain in the butt to get them, since they're the same type of prop. You cannot use move it to like differentiate them being a building or a tree or anything like that. It's really hard to get it right. So me toning down that little roundabout took way longer than expected, simply because I had to like delete half of the work that I already done that I was actually happy with. Hopefully that makes sense. But as you can see here, this is part of what I was saying before. This little neighborhood needs quite a bit of work, but we'll get to most of the detailing of this area in the next episode for sure. It's coming together quite nicely in general, but I'm pretty happy with the direction that area is going. And over here, finally, we're going to work in doing this like flood control facility that literally has a pump that is pumping water. And I didn't want to go, do like a massive facility. It's more like a little construction right next to the river. With obviously it's all fenced around, because there's actually going to be a neighborhood right next to this thing. There's going to be multiple streets that wouldn't necessarily cross the creek. I think we're going to have another bridge there if traffic gets a little bit too wild, but I mean, I haven't seen any traffic at all on this island. Most of the traffic happens on the link road, the main national road there. And right now we're sitting at 3,300 people living here, so I don't think traffic's gonna get any worse. If it does, we're gonna add another bridge going across the creek, but for the most part, there's gonna be only two main roads connecting the different areas or the different neighborhoods of this island. Again, I think I'm getting ahead of myself right now. All these things don't really make that much sense if I'm not showing you the entirety of the island, but man, I can't wait to start expanding further out. I'm not entirely sure how, what the next couple episodes will be. I know that I'm going to be working on this apartment complex that I mentioned a few moments ago. I also want to tackle the high school. And clearly they're going to be, multiple. I'm trying to focus on like one big build per episode type thing. So it's not going to be like, oh, okay, next episode I'm just going to finish this whole island. I don't think it will work that way. But there's going to be a lot of repetition when it comes to, expanding the neighborhoods, because they will look all pretty much alike. In a bit of a more downtown setting, there will be slightly different. There will be more commercial, but there's going to be a ton of just residential that looks the way it already does. So I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to work on that necessarily, whether I'm going to do a live stream for that or just going to do it off camera. And obviously it's going to be done in multiple chunks. Yeah, I'm not just going to show up one day and it's like, hey, like here's all these neighborhoods done. I just made them overnight. And even though you can use Move It to sort of speed up the process, copy and paste different things, and I've done that quite a bit already during, during the creation of Seenu, it does take, quite a bit of time, and it's definitely a bit of a process. So, it's don't expect huge developments that soon. Now, going back to the time lapse. What I'm trying to do here is, you see this creek kind of goes across this road and it turns into this big swamp in the middle of the jungle. And then it goes across another road and then it becomes a different type of swamp that surrounds this main building, which is the convention center, which by the way, I have a model who was made by one of the viewers, but it was untextured. So if you are willing to work on that building, I'll be very, very much appreciated, because it's kind of like sort of the main landmark of this whole project. It's the biggest building. If you search Addu Atoll on Google Images, that building appears. So if you're willing to help me out with that asset, please send me a message on Twitter, Facebook, email, on the comment section down below. And there's actually a whole list of custom assets that I'll be requiring for the creation of this project, and I have a spreadsheet on Google Maps, on Google Docs, not Google Maps, where you can see what is needed. But what I was trying to do here, by the way, with those keys is trying to create like a really narrow bridge. Even this one is a little bit too large than what I was expecting. I wanted something that is like so like small that you don't even know that it's there. And the only way I was able to achieve that, given, I mean, the limitation for the most part was the terraforming. It's not very detailed. When you start using the brush, it basically takes up a chunk of land. You can't have like straight walls of, rocks or something like that. So that is as narrow as I was able to get it. But it's still good enough, together with, coupled with some vegetation around it. It definitely does look low profile. And if you're not paying attention as you're driving by, you don't really notice that it's there. But what I'm doing now is creating the swamp, and it's, it's a bit of a two-layered sort of construction here. As you can see here, we have the bottom layer, which is where the water sits. And then there's like the semi-shallow waters on the shoreline that has some like islands kind of popping up that is mostly going to be trees. And obviously I was just clearing everything around that area, just no trees at all, because I wanted to replop many of the trees that I originally put down in the creation of the map, that I don't think I need them anymore. I was using these darker trees together with the oak trees that I know are not part of the tropical theme necessarily, but they do add a bit of an interesting contrast of greens that totally fits in. So in many occasions, you're going to see me add, vegetation that doesn't really fit the theme of tropical, but it does look rather nice, and I still choose to include them because of that. It's just a matter of finding, since we have limited assets or limited variety of assets when it comes to the workshop, I try to, get the best look that I can with the tools that I have. And not only that, it's also in relation to, let's say you find the perfect palm tree. If the palm tree looks crappy when you zoom out, that's also a no-go for me. So I know my standards might be a little bit harsh or crazy or, severe or, strict because of my name. Yeah, no? Okay. I can already hear like all the people like closing this video and moving on with their lives. Hopefully not, but what am I saying? I've been recording this for quite some time, guys. It's been a 28-minute time lapse that I've been commenting on in multiple takes. My throat is a little bit weird right now, and I'm also in a rush because I need to get this video rendered before I go to work. So yeah, please do not mind the dumb jokes and continue to watch and continue to like the video at the end as well. But wow, that was really off topic. Going back to the time lapse. Okay, focus. We're gonna be working on just adding a few, houses kind of spread in the middle of this jungle. For the most part, it's gonna be vegetation only, but I did want to add, a few little houses here and there, like this one, for example, that has a road that connects straight into it. And obviously we had to add some power lines, even though those are just props only. But they do look nice with the clothes hanging out there and a little shed for the car. I think that it's just, you know, as much as I want to detail that was just like perfect. Very, very simple. Everything else after that is pedestrian, even though the car can actually kind of fit between those two bollards. That was sort of the idea there. I might change that later. I only keep 2 bollards. It's mostly to sort of signal that is private property more than cars are not allowed to drive there. But I did my best to sort of plopped houses and blend them in between the jungles and the edges of the different blocks. You're going to see them in the outro cinematics, just how everything looks from up above. I was trying to like have a bit of a gradient between the sort of the stone blocks and everything else. But as we approach the end of this time lapse, I'm going to let you enjoy the last few seconds of this delightful music, and I'll resume in just a moment. But unfortunately, I'm running out of time for this episode. If you enjoyed, please consider giving this video a like. That helps a lot and is very much appreciated. Also, if you're new to the channel, I want to encourage you to go click the subscribe button. That way you're notified immediately after one of my videos comes out. There's a link in the description to the full playlist in case you might have missed an episode, as well as a link to my Twitter account that you should follow in order to stay up to date with the developments of the channel. But that's all the time that I have for now. I want to thank you all for watching, and hope to see you in the next one.